I'm not stupid, my future wife. They used to say my silence meant emptiness. They thought because I did not argue back, because I did not rush to prove myself, that my mind was slow and my dreams were small. I heard their laughter behind my back and sometimes straight in my face. I smiled. Not because I agreed with them, but because I knew something they did not. I was not stupid. I was becoming. My name is Fazza. So I grew up in a narrow street where houses leaned toward each other like tired old friends. The walls were thin, and so were the chances people believed someone like me could rise. I was the boy who listened more than he spoke, who worked quietly, who chose patience when others chose noise. Teachers called me average. Neighbors called me lazy. Friends said I was too calm for this world. No one asked what I was planning inside my heart. Every morning I woke before the sun. The air was cool and honest at that hour. I washed my face, looked at myself in the cracked mirror, and whispered words I never said out loud to anyone else. Be now. I told myself that one day my future wife would look at me with pride. I told myself she would never have to defend me from the world because my life would speak for me. That promise became my strength. I worked small jobs that people mocked. I worked small jobs that people mocked. I carried boxes, cleaned shops, fixed broken things no one wanted to touch. My hands grew rough and my back ached, but my mind stayed sharp. While others slept, I read. While others slept, I read. While others complained, I learned. I watched how people talked, how they failed, how they succeeded, how they succeeded. I stored lessons quietly, like seeds waiting for rain. There were days I felt tired of being misunderstood. Days when I wanted to shout that I was more than what they saw. But I remembered my promise. I did not need applause now. I did not need applause. So I stayed silent and kept moving. At night, I imagined her, my future wife. I did not know her face, but I knew her heart. She would be kind but strong, gentle but wise. She would understand silence. She would see effort where others saw nothing. I imagined telling her my story one day. Me not with bitterness, but with calm pride. I imagined her smile when she realized that the man beside her had never been stupid, only patient. Life tested me often. There was a time when I failed badly. I lost a job I needed. Bills piled up. People nodded as if my failure confirmed what they always believed. Confirmed what they always believed. I felt the weight of their judgment pressing on my chest. At night, I sat alone in the dark. Doubt tried to enter my mind. It whispered that maybe they were right. I let the doubt speak. Then I answered it. I reminded myself of every morning I woke early, every skill I made. Every time I chose discipline over comfort. Failure did not erase those things. It only sharpened them. I stood up, wiped my face, and started again. Slowly things changed. Not in a dramatic way, but in a real way. I found better work. I earned trust. People began to notice my consistency. They still did not praise me loudly, but their tone softened. They asked for my help. They listened when I spoke. I did not change for them. I changed with them. I changed because I had always been changing. One day I met her. It was simple and unexpected. She was not impressed by loud talk or big cream, 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 cream. She noticed small things. She noticed how I treated others, how I listened, how I stayed calm when things went wrong. We talked easily. Silence between us felt confident, while not awkward. For the first time, I did not feel the need to explain myself. As we grew closer, explain myself. As we grew closer, she learned about my past. She heard the stories of being underestimated, of being laughed at, of walking alone while others ran ahead. She did not pity me. She respected me. She told me something I will never forget. She said that intelligence is not always loud and strength is not always visible at first. When I asked her to marry me, I did not offer perfection. I offered honesty, effort, and loyalty. I told her I was still building, still learning, still becoming. She smiled and said she already knew. On our wedding day, I looked around and saw many familiar faces. Some who once doubted me, some who once ignored me. They congratulated me, praised my journey, spoke as if they had always believed in me. I held no anger. I had outgrown it. When I stood beside my wife, I felt complete, not because I had proven others wrong, but because I had stayed true to myself, I leaned toward her and whispered the words I had carried for so long. I am not stupid, my future wife. I was just preparing for you. She squeezed my hand, and in that moment, every quiet struggle, every lonely night, every silent effort felt worth it. My story was never about revenge or validation. It was about patience, growth, and love. And it was only the beginning. I'm not stupid, my future wife, after the wedding. Life did not suddenly become easy. Love does not erase struggle. It gives meaning to it. Through it. I learned that quickly. When the guests left and the decorations were taken down, reality sat beside us at the small table in our rented room. 2 cups of tea, one window, many dreams. My wife looked at me that night with calm eyes. She did not ask about money or timelines. She asked what I wanted to build with her. That question stayed with me. I realized then that my journey was no longer just about proving myself to the world. It was about becoming a man she could rely on, not because I was rich or famous, but because I was steady. Marriage showed me parts of myself I had not fully met. My patience was tested in new ways. Responsibility became heavier. I could no longer afford silent drifting. Every decision mattered because it affected someone I loved deeply. Some nights I lay awake listening to her breathing, promising myself that she would never regret choosing me. Work was still hard. There were days I came home tired, clothes dusty, hands sore. She never complained. She listened. She cooked simple meals and reminded me that progress is often quiet. When I felt small, she reminded me of how far I had already come. She never compared me to others. That alone gave me strength. People began to see me differently, not because I changed who I was, but because consistency speaks louder than difference. I handled pressure without panic. I solved problems instead of blaming them. Slowly, opportunities appeared. A recommendation, a better position, trust. Things that once felt distant came closer, step by step. Still, doubt visited sometimes. Old voices echoed in my mind when things went wrong. When things went wrong. On those days, my wife would sit beside me and hold my hand. She would say that intelligence is not measured by speed, but by direction. She believed in my direction even when the road was rough. We grew together. We learned each other's silences and storm. Softly, honestly. We always returned to respect. I learned that love is not about grand gestures. It is about showing up when tired, listening when angry, staying when it is easier to leave. One evening, After a long day, I told her everything I had never said before. How being underestimated had shaped me. How loneliness taught me discipline. How silence became my shield. How silence became my weapon. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she smiled and said that my past did not break me. It trained me. That night, I understood something deeply. I had spent years wanting to prove I was not stupid, but the truth was simpler. I did not need to prove anything anymore. I was building a life rooted in effort, humility, and love. That was intelligence the world rarely applauds, but always needs. As time passed, our home grew warmer, not bigger, but fuller. Laughter replaced worry more often. Dreams became plans. Plans became actions. I started mentoring younger men who reminded me of myself. Quiet, misjudged, waiting to bloom. I never lectured. I simply showed them that patience can change everything. Sometimes my wife would watch me from across the room with that familiar smile. I knew what she was thinking. She saw the man I had always been becoming. Not perfect, not loud, but rounded. One night, as we sat under the open sky, she rested her head on my shoulder. I whispered again, not as a defense, but as a truth. I am not stupid, my wife. I was just growing at my own pace. She smiled and said that she knew from the beginning. And in that moment, I realized the greatest success was not wealth or status. It was being understood by the one person who mattered most. Our story continued, not as a fairy tale, but as something stronger, a life built slowly, honestly, and with love. And with love.